In 1997, a family rented a small, forgotten storage unit on the outskirts of Orlando, a place where the humid Florida air seemed to cling to everything with a damp, persistent chill. It was a metal box meant to hold the ghosts of their past life, dusty old furniture from a grandmother's house, boxes of forgotten photographs, and the faded, well-loved toys their daughter had outgrown. Or so they thought. While sorting through the clutter under the single, buzzing fluorescent light, their young daughter, Emily, found something tucked away in a dark corner, wrapped in a yellowed linen cloth. It was a porcelain doll, its painted face unnervingly pristine despite the years of neglect. Its glass eyes, a piercing shade of blue, seemed to follow them around the cramped space. Emily was instantly captivated. She clutched it to her chest and begged her parents to let her keep it, her pleas echoing slightly in the metal container. Reluctantly, they agreed, dismissing the unease they felt as a trick of the dim lighting and the musty air. They couldn't have known that by taking the doll, they weren't just bringing home a forgotten toy. They were inviting something else into their lives, something that had been waiting patiently in the dark. That very night, an unsettling stillness fell over their suburban home. The parents were jolted awake in the dead of night, not by a storm or a sudden noise, but by the soft, lilting sound of their daughter's voice drifting from her bedroom down the hall. They listened, their hearts beginning to pound a slow, heavy rhythm against their ribs. It sounded like she was talking in her sleep, a common enough occurrence for a child, but as they strained their ears in the suffocating silence, they realized the chilling truth. There were pauses in her monologue, deliberate and measured, as if she were listening to a question before responding. Emily wasn't talking, she was answering. A cold dread washed over them as they imagined who, or what, she could possibly be conversing with in the solitude of her room. They tried to shake off the feeling, telling themselves it was just an overactive imagination, a byproduct of the strange day. But the feeling of being watched, of a foreign presence in their home, lingered long after the whispering ceased, clinging to the shadows until the first light of dawn. The next morning, an unnerving discovery awaited them. The porcelain doll, which Emily had placed on her bedside table the night before, was now sitting upright in the middle of the hallway, directly outside their bedroom door. Its polished shoes were pointed towards them, its glass eyes glinting in the morning sun that streamed through a nearby window. It sat there as if it had been placed with purpose, a silent sentinel guarding the threshold. The parents questioned Emily, but she stared at them with wide, innocent eyes, swearing she hadn't moved it. They questioned each other, but both denied having anything to do with the doll's mysterious relocation. A knot of fear tightened in their stomachs. The house no longer felt like their own. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of leaves outside the window, seemed to take on a sinister meaning. The doll remained in the hallway for the rest of the day, an unspoken challenge that no one dared to touch its serene painted smile, a mocking contradiction to the growing terror that was slowly taking root in their home. The air grew thick with unspoken questions and a palpable sense of dread. A week passed, each day heavier and more oppressive than the last. The strange occurrences escalated. Toys would rearrange themselves in Emily's room. Whispers would echo from empty corners of the house. Emily herself became withdrawn and quiet, spending hours locked in her room, speaking in hushed tones to a porcelain companion. The parents were on edge, their nerves frayed to the breaking point. Then came the night that would shatter their world forever. They woke to an unnatural silence, a void of sound so profound it was more alarming than any noise. A primal fear seized the father, and he rushed to Emily's room. The bed was empty, the sheets cold and undisturbed. Panic set in, raw and blinding. They searched the house. Their frantic calls to Emily met with only a hollow echo. They checked the yard, the street, their neighbors' houses. Nothing. As despair began to consume them, a thought, cold and sharp as ice, pierced the father's mind. The storage unit. It was a desperate, illogical idea, but they had nowhere else to turn. They drove through the deserted streets, the city lights a blur of panic and fear, their tires screeching as they pulled up to the facility. The lock on their unit was cold to the touch, and the heavy metal door groaned in protest as they wrenched it open, revealing the cavernous darkness within. And there, Huddled in the far corner was Emily. She was shivering, not from the cold, but from a deep, bone-rattling fear. Her arms were wrapped tightly around her knees, and she was rocking back and forth, her eyes wide with a terror that seemed to look right through them. As her parents rushed to her side, she didn't seem to register their presence. She was lost in a trance, her voice a faint, trembling whisper that was barely audible in the cavernous space. They knelt beside her, their relief at finding her alive warring with the horrifying mystery of how she had gotten there, inside a locked unit miles from home. They strained to hear her words, the soft, repeated phrase that fell from her lips like a prayer. "She wanted me to come back," Emily whispered, over and over again, her voice cracking with a fear that was not of this world. "She wanted me to come back." Her parents' eyes darted around the dimly lit unit, searching for an explanation, for any sign of who she was, and then they noticed it. The dusty corner where the porcelain doll had first been found was now empty. The doll was gone.